What if you could change your life? What if the sorrow could become joy and the darkness the light? What if you could heal not only yourself but those around you? Well, you can. This is Alchemy, and these are the Alchemy Sisters. Join psychic Jennie McDaniel and spiritual advisor Mandee Elam for a magical 1-hour journey into esoteric spiritual discussions.
Hello and welcome to the Alchemy Sisters. You are here with Mandee and Jennie. Jennie actually is having a little bit of difficulty with her connection tonight. She's going to be calling in shortly. For those of you who are first listening to the Alchemy Sisters, Jennie and I like to host a discussion each week in relation to the multiverse, healing, navigating life, divine energies, and all that kind of encompasses that. Our intention is to bring awareness, clarity, knowledge, and free healing and resources to our listeners. And we are honored, as always, that you're joining us and that you're tuning in. Since Jennie's running a little late, I want to go ahead and welcome on our guest. Our guest tonight is Sam Groff. She's the founder of Parenting is Poopy and OmniBiz Services, and she's also a friend of mine. So I am honored to have her here. Welcome, Sam. How are you tonight?
I'm good, Mandee. Thank you very much.
Awesome. We're so excited to chat with you. Just so our listeners know, Sam has tons and tons of knowledge. She's like the wise woman who's always around, who always has an answer to something, and I'm just so excited she's with us. Sam, will you tell our listeners a little bit about Parenting is Poopy and what all that is?
Okay, so Parenting is Poopy is a blog I started back in 2016 when I recognized that there is a extreme disconnect for many parents with what they see in social media and the reality of what parenting is. Now, we don't have the perfect world. We're not in the aspect of everything goes exactly as planned in parenting because, you know what, it'd be great if we all got a handbook for each of our kids, but we don't. The universe makes us learn through the process with our children, and they give us our children for the reasons that we have them. So I wrote Parenting is Poopy, and I've started that blog, and I've been continuing that blog for the last few years. And it's really just a place for parents to go to see the realities of, hey, life has its ups and its downs, and you don't have to compare yourself to everybody else out there. Right now we're doing a sustainability segment focusing on the fact that we're bringing in chickens into our family and we've put them out in their coop and how that's evolving and how I'm literally creating the home of my dreams, which is our small little, family home here in my small town in Maryland. And what we do is we are going to turn it into a micro farm. So we're very excited about that. So that is Parenting is Poopy in a nutshell. It is literally where parents can go to see the evolution of life and realize that not everybody is the pretty shining picture that you see on Pinterest.
I love, honor, and respect that so much. Life is just about kind of, eating each moment with the best that you can, and sometimes our best is better than other times, and not everything is going to be perfect and shiny like you were talking about. And we see so much of that on social media. And I think people can very easily kind of get down on themselves or feel like they're not doing the best that they can or that something's kind of wrong. And I think what you're doing really gives people an outlet and just a sense of being and togetherness, that they're not alone.
I mean, I was beating myself up, Mandee, every time I got on Pinterest and I saw the next birthday activity or, you should be doing this chore chart with your kid, or you should be saying all these perfect things to your children every time, or if you're having a disciplinary issue, then it's obviously your fault and this is why and how to fix it. I mean, I was literally, spiraling into a case of depression, and that's the reason why I created it, because I knew I wasn't the only one. Because every time I walked into a place like Home Depot or the supermarket, I would see other parents struggling, and instead of, giving them the rolled eye, which is what I always was getting from a lot of other parents, I went up to them like, you're doing a great job. And it was a smile. And in that practice, I've recognized that, we all just need a little bit of boosting up, and, it's going to be messy along the way.
Oh, how beautiful is that? And empowering. That's so cool that you're just able to be like, all right, this is what I'm doing. I'm catching myself. Something's not right here. I'm beating myself up. I'm comparing myself. What can I do to change this? And what you did was you decided, all right, I'll create a platform where we can kind of stand together and help one another. And I talk about that on this show. The simplest thing is opening a door for someone or smiling to someone if you can tell they're having a bad day, or just that, everybody in the store, as soon as you see the toddler meltdown, you get judgmental looks and people go running. And instead, you invited yourself into that. And I just think that's beautiful. Thank you.
It definitely helped me when I had an older mom do that for me. So I realized that was so important. So
good. And there's just so many things you just can't control with kids, especially. They have to have their feelings authentically when they have them, and you can't exactly hide that in public.
Nope.
As much as many parents, I'm sure, want to.
Well,
what
when
are
you're
some
having
things that
a
you've
stage
noticed?
5 category.
Oh.
I was just saying, when you're having a category 5 meltdown, yeah, you want to do is pretty much hide in a corner.
Yeah. Yeah. What are some things you've learned when that happens? What do you do now when that happens with your kids?
I actually just tell my kids I'm not afraid of what people are going to say and if they're going to look at me. I literally say that so that all the parents around me and all the other adults that are rolling their eyes around me can hear me say it. I don't care what they think. What I care about is you in the moment, and we need to take care of you. And that's been honestly one of the more liberating feelings for me, because it's not that I am disconnecting from the people around me, but I'm reconnecting with my kid in that moment. And that was actually the more important piece for me, because I was worried so much about what other people thought of me, having, been a high school teacher and having to have a persona, and then going into the corporate world and having to have an instructional design persona. Now, working for myself, I've realized that I've been wearing so many other masks that everybody else has put on me, and it's liberating to be able to say, nope, I'm putting up that boundary. I don't care what they think. I care about you right now. You're the most important part, and if you're going to do this, we're going to do this, and we're going to do it for everyone to see.
I love that. And it's incredibly important. That was really kind of powerful what you talked about, not disconnecting and reconnecting. Because when, many people look back to their childhood, especially the generations who came before us, many children were to kind of be seen and not heard. And if they were having a feeling that wasn't, in agreement with society's standard at that time, then, you were ridiculed or bullied or made fun of. And instead, you're just standing there and you're setting an example for other people. I bet there's so many other parents that witnessed what you're doing at that time and are like, okay, I can take a breath and I can learn from this, because this is truly what it's all about. And it's about having the connection, to your children and giving them a safe environment. And you're their safe environment when you're out and about, Yeah,
I don't know if I ever feel that way when it's happening, but I hope for everybody else around me. I don't ever feel that way, but in that moment, that's my goal, is even if it's, you're going to raise your voice at me, okay, we're going to be heard by the whole entire store. This is life. I'm here.
Yep.
So.
Exactly. Oh, how cool. So right now you said you're working on your dream home, which is so cool, because I've been friends with Sam for a couple years now, and I've got to hear little bits and pieces of this project, and now it's all coming to life, which is incredible. What's your favorite part about, moving into sustainability right now?
Well, for us, it's that each of my kids has their own space. We went from a townhouse to a single-family home, and we're on, I would think, about a third of an acre. We're still inside the city limits where we live, so we definitely still have some rules that we have to follow, but we have very great neighbors, and we've told them what our plans are, and they are incredibly supportive, because what we're doing is teaching our kids how to sustain themselves, God forbid anything happens, but also the fact that, we are a society that throws things away. I'm very much the opposite of that. I have a tendency to recycle, reduce, reuse to the point of things falling apart. So
that's good, though.
It is. So for my kids, what they've learned and they've been learning is, composting. And now with the chickens, when we have almost no food waste from our home now, which is awesome, which will then go back into the garden that we're going to do, which will then be able to regenerate more food for our family and have to rely less on the large supermarkets. And our goal is actually, the evolution of this is actually to even put a full-scale greenhouse on our property so that we can be farming realistically year-round, and then during the winter months be able to still be bringing in food and take back the greenhouse in the summer and allow it just to be natural open farming. So it's cool. It's
so
a process.
Beautiful. I bet. Yeah, there's got to be some really challenging things that have come up with that. What are some of your biggest challenges so far?
Well, one of the biggest challenges that we found is that when we moved into this house, we didn't know that there had been very large American chestnut trees and hemlock trees on the property, which were absolutely probably in their heyday beautiful, but we never saw them because we have their root systems underneath our backyard. So as we're, building the chicken coop, I'm running into dead root systems that we're having to hack out. And the great part about it is that as we hack out the old roots, we're putting that into the compost bin to be able to add more brown matter to our composter. But then also, we're able to lay down the chicken wire to protect the chickens from predators. I mean, even though we live in the suburbs, we live right down the street from us is a fox den. So we have definitive healthy ecosystem in our area, and we have osprey and we have eagles that regularly fly around our neighborhood. So we have to protect our livestock and from predators, but that's a great problem to have as a micro farmer, because that means that the ecosystem around us is healthy enough to sustain predators. So
that's true. Good. Yeah. So what livestock do you have right now? Just the chickens to start?
Well, right now we just have the chickens, and as we are growing with that, they're only 8 weeks old. So we're trying to finish up putting raised beds around the chicken coops so that it'll protect the chickens, A, from themselves, and B, from predators. So the chicken wire is down in the ground, and we're going to put raised beds that will have organic herbs that the chickens actually thrive on, and flowers that the chickens thrive on, as other types of nutrients to be able to clip, throw in with the chickens, let them eat as they please. And then we'll be, hopefully within the next couple months, we're way behind where we are in we're on the East Coast and we're in Maryland area, so we're behind our planting season. But as long as we get stuff in the ground, a lot of the kinds of things that we grow will return year after year. Like our strawberries, we won't get fruit this year, but we'll get them in and they'll grow. We have raspberries right now that are growing from little tiny nubs, and we'll be planting all the beans, and we missed pea season, and we missed all the strong leafy green season, but we're going to get in the tomatoes and the salads and all those things. So it's a process, though, because right now the chickens took up so much time. It took about 3 weeks, 4 weeks to actually get the coop built and safe enough to have them outside on a sustainable time. So it pushed us back with the farming, the traditional vegetable farming, but it's not like we can't make up some of that time with greenhousing and cold framing them from into the longer fall months. So that's the nice part about not understanding sustainability, is that we'll be able to farm longer than most people who don't pay attention to those things. And since we use square foot gardening, we maximize the use of the land that we have.
Beautiful. I'm always seeing things on, Facebook and Instagram and things like that about, gardening in smaller spaces and, doing raised beds and square foot gardening. And it does. It seems like there's such a beautiful science to it. And there's like all these plants that cohabitate nicely together so that you can get like the most per square footage. What are some of your favorite things to kind of grow together?
Well, I mean, pretty much one of my favorite things is to grow together is tomatoes and all the herbs that go with tomatoes to make sauce. So I make a lot of our own tomato sauce and salsa and things like that. So what we do is in our tomato beds, we put basil and oregano and thyme and things like that. And lots of usually Roma tomatoes, but we also do a variety of other kinds. My son loves what he calls zebra tomatoes. They're like the brown kind of tomatoes that, will have stripes on them. So they're fun.
Oh, cool.
Like he'll go out and he'll just eat the plant down to like no tomatoes. So, but
well,
my daughter
you're doing something right.
True story. My daughter loves cilantro.
Most kids don't like veggies. Oh, cilantro. Yeah, you don't hear about the kids either.
Yeah, she'll eat that straight out of the garden. Actually, I have to always have more seeds started because she'll eat it so fast. The plant will actually go dead because she eats so much of it so quickly. She just enjoys eating it. I don't know why. It's kind of like salad for her. So what we do is we plant multiple different pots of cilantro at different stages. These as they go to coriander, which is the culinary herb that from the flower of the cilantro plant, we harvest that and then reseed. So we're constantly evolving, but my family loves salsa. I mean, I'm not a spicy person, but my husband is, so we have everything from spicy hot Thai peppers to ridiculously spicy Polish peppers and all sorts of crazy things. We haven't really done the ghost peppers or jalapenos because we have another friend locally who grows those and we just trade. And that's the other part of sustainability that I love about our gardening and our chickens is that with the community that we have around here, we do have a bunch of families that we know that also garden and we trade for food that we've grown that's going to benefit each other. And a good friend of mine, she grows a lot of herbs that I don't really grow, and then the two of us combine and make teas, usually in the fall. So that's always a fun thing. But it teaches my kids sustainability in the long term of not just not purchasing from the mass distributors, but also how to do some of the simplest things that we often take for granted, like tea. Like most people think, oh, it's a little tea bag. I can throw it together. It'll be fine. Just pull one out of the container. Where does that tea come from? So for us, like my kids know that, if they have an upset belly, I can make them mint tea. Or if they're having a hard time sleeping, we'll make lavender chamomile tea. And it'll be from flowers that we've grown and dried and processed. So it's a very interesting, holistic approach to raising our kids, and I love it. My husband loves it. He's a little bit harder sometimes than he wants it to be, but we all have our moments.
Oh, it's just like parenting. Growing a garden's got to be very similar. You give it all the things you think it needs, and then sometimes it needs something a little different.
Well, that's also the beauty of the chickens, because as the garden grows and we get a larger fence around our property, we'll be able to have the chickens outside of the coop and outside of the run, and they'll actually minimize the amount of bugs that we'll have in our garden.
Well, that'll be nice, because you do hear about that. I grew up in South Jersey, as a lot of our listeners know, and you hear about a lot of invasive bugs that come in and kind of just kill gardens off. And so that makes a lot of sense that the chickens would be the first line of defense.
Yep. And next year we'll go and get ladybugs, and locally there's a gentleman who goes and he harvests praying mantis egg sacs in the northern part of the county where we live in, and he goes and he collects wild praying mantis egg sacs to give to local gardeners to be able to put into their gardens, and that'll actually help the species thrive, not just in the northern part of our county, but throughout the rest of the county that we live in. So
Wow, that's so cool, and not something I would ever think of. So, what an
Yep.
amazing fact, and something to kind of share. And for any of our listeners out there who, want some help with bugs and things like that, that's a beautiful way. Just find,
hmm
yeah, what do? You just Google someone who has praying mantis sacks? I don't even know.
Actually, you can literally Google purchasing praying mantis sacks. I always try to stay local, and there's actually a gentleman who comes to our local libraries, and what he does is he goes out and he forages probably 3 or 4 weekends in like the late August, through September and October, and then in November, what he does is he sets up at the local library and he sells like a bunch for like $5. So like fill a whole bag for like $5 for you, and then you just keep them refrigerated, and then in the springtime, once it's warmed up, you just put them out in a not a secluded area, but like a covered area so that predators can't get them. And as long as they're warm, they'll hatch, and you will have a massive bug-eating force of bugs.
That's so cool. I want to welcome Jennie on. I think Jennie joined. Are you with us, Jennie?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I hear you great.
Hi, Jennie.
Jennie was having a hard time earlier, but now we got her back. And just so you know, Jennie, Sam kind of told us all about Parenting is Poopy, her blog that she started to help parents to see that not everything's as shiny as it is on social media. And we talked a lot about how to really, meet your kids in the moment and not care about what other people think or might think in the background. And then we talked a lot more about Sam's dream home she's building and her sustainable family farm and all the beautiful things that are going into that right now.
Excellent. Where are you at, Sam? What state?
I'm in Maryland, so we're on the western shore of Maryland. So we are right at the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay.
Lovely area. And I just picked up on the last piece there about the bug sacks that you put in your garden for holistic and natural bug repellent. That's insects.
I don't like
to
pesticides.
take care of that. Yeah, me neither. It's brilliant. I love that.
And I had one follow-up question for Sam, too. She was talking about there's certain, flowers and herbs that you're going to grow for your chickens. What are some flowers and herbs that chickens like?
So one of the immediate ones that comes to mind is rose hips and just roses. Putting them around there actually sounds like a crazy thing to do. You're thinking the chicken will poke itself on the thorns. Actually, they're not stupid. They're very intelligent birds, and they'll just pick off the petals and the hips, which is the internal parts of the flower. Also, calendula flowers, which are also edible. They like a variety of different things, like rosemary and a variety of different other ones off the top of my head. I'm blanking, but I had a whole list already printed out. I had a list printed out that would do it, but they like clean smelling things. So anything like lavender and calendula or rose, they're just the immediate flowers that pop to my brain that we were planning on doing, because what we were going to do is put it up each corner of the coop. We were going to put a small rose bush. It will also then, if there's any bugs in the area, since chickens like to eat bugs because they're omnivores, they will be able to eat any of the bugs that are going to attack the roses. So it'll bring them into range for the chickens.
Very cool. It's just fascinating. I'm kind of getting lost in imagining what it's like to live on your little farm and all of the things coming together. And it's just so beautiful. And I was thinking about your daughter liking cilantro. I've been reading a lot of articles recently. It's like one of the most alchemizing and healing herbs that there are. And pretty much if you're sick with any illness, a lot of cultures, first line of defense is cilantro. So I just find it fascinating that, she's automatically, and that she's automatically drawn to it. And it's just cool because when kids grow up on a farm and they're exposed to things, not just out of a grocery store, it's probably really neat to witness what they, just naturally are drawn to and what feels good to them to eat intuitively, like your son with the tomatoes. It's really cool and really beautiful, and probably an awesome thing to just witness this intuitive eating on the garden for children.
Well, it's great because during the summer when they complain that they're hungry, I just say go to the garden and find the thing. So when we had to do it at our community garden, we didn't have that option, but we had started doing potted plants at our home. And they had gotten into the habit of just going out, and when they had wanted a snack, they would go eat green beans fresh off there, and the tomatoes and the cilantro and all sorts of things. And it's interesting because when they're playing, even in like a mud hole, what they'll do is, mud smells. It's a distinct odor. Everyone knows what it is. You remember it from when you were a kid. They'll actually go grab a handful of my herb plants. Like we have a large rosemary, which is a protectorate kind of plant. We have it right by our front door. They'll go and they'll rip a handful of rosemary off and they'll throw it in their mud pies to make it smell better. So it's just interesting how they know intuitively like what to do to kind of protect themselves. Because rosemary is an immunity booster, and so is oregano, and those are the kinds of things that they'll go and grab when they're playing in the mud. So it's just like, okay, whatever, you roll with it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
That's so cool. Jennie, do you have any questions for Sam around her sustainable farm or parenting as Poopy? We haven't talked about social media yet. We're still kind of talking about the her home and all the amazing things she's doing there.
Are you guys thinking about having any bees?
Actually, I would love nothing more than to have bees, but where we live, we are too close, in my opinion, to other families that don't know how to handle bees. And out of respect to my other neighbors, I will not bring them into our neighborhood. However, the great part about our local green team where I live is that they have actually set up a hive down at the food forest that our community has set up down in the Section 8 housing area, where their goal is to teach all of the people in the Section 8 housing community how to just go and forage and have free, sustainable food.
That's something I find really cool. I was a housing counselor for a long time when I was a social worker, so I would manage Section 8 vouchers and other vouchers and things like that. And one of the buildings I worked at for a long time, it took us forever to finally get a community garden approved with the city and whatnot. And when we did, it was just like everybody loved it. Everybody was fighting over garden plots and wanted to do anything that they could. And so that just warms my heart to hear that you guys are doing that in your community, and that, especially the kids being raised there are going to have that as an exposure, which is nice.
And the neat part about it is that they're trying to focus on a lot of the more indigenous plants to Maryland, and specifically where we live on the Chesapeake Bay. So they definitely are doing it at like pawpaw and things like that are mulberries and blueberry bushes and things like that, so that people can actually know how to forage and do it safely versus just going out into the wild and like picking something up and trying to eat it and getting very sick. So everything's labeled. And the next part is the educational outreach by the Green Team, which I'm hoping will be very successful over the next couple of years, where to work with the Section 8 HUD coordinators and teach them, have free classes available of how to utilize the free produce that they have available to them. Because a big part of the issue is a lack of knowledge of how to use fresh produce. And that's sad in our culture today. And that's the reason why sustainability is such a big part of my family, because my grandmother grew up during the Great Depression. And that was so very much so ingrained in me from day one, is that sustainability is a must. You can't go through life not knowing how to take care of yourself if no one else can help you. You got to do it yourself.
It's so beautiful and so wise. We had a guest on last week, and she was talking about how so many people and kids don't have a clue how to cook or how to, give themselves nutrients, and how, like home ec is like disappeared from schools, and even, kids who don't have an opportunity to learn at home aren't even getting taught in the school system, how to look for foods that might, work for them or to grow them and to nourish themselves. So it's a very needed thing. And it's sad that we've allowed our culture to move away from that so incredibly quickly. But, with people like you and your amazing community, I have a lot of hopes that we're going to reinstill a lot of those skills within our population.
Yeah, I think it's great, and I'm so glad that you're pioneering and leading in that space. Just like Mandee was saying, our guest Aya came on, and she was a public school teacher for many years, and she was talking about the state of it and what the kids are being forced to learn and what's really needed to grow and prosper in adulthood. And, of course, some of the stuff is required, reading, writing, but we need to bring back awareness of growing fruits and vegetables. Just because someone chooses to do something else with their time and can't do it per se in their schedule on their own, but to find and resource. I think the Great Depression taught that above almost anything is keep your supply chain small. If you are a blacksmith and you don't have time to have a crop, you have a crop buddy. You have a farmer buddy who needs his whatever fixed, his tools and this and that. And that's that trading community. If it's not in your forte, do your forte, do your special practice, and people will find you and you can trade amongst that, especially back then. Now people like to have cash in their bank account because of the capitalistic state of things, but you can still trade and have fun in that. When I lived in Michigan, I was around I knew a lot more farmers, probably because I lived there for a long time, but I would just fill my freezers with the best local beef and chicken and sausage and anything. I ate a lot more meat back then, but I would get vegetables, whatever was canned things. And I loved it. I sought out those people. To me, that was more valuable than money because I couldn't buy with money that level and much organic foods. So it was just became a better deal to trade. So I sought farmers out, local artisans, things like that. So fun. And then you get to know your community and you know where to reach.
So true.
Yes. Sam, you were talking about trading with some neighbors and some members of your gardening club. Are you going to maybe have the opportunity to sell some of your crops too?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the nice part about where I live, so I live in an older community in our town, and we're literally at the old original end of our city limits. And the nice part is I live with everybody almost around me is 55 and older. There are very few families with small children, and I'm referred to as the mom with the boy that plays in the mud. So I find that as like a badge of honor, actually. Because they love seeing my kids playing in the dirt and outside. So, and they've watched the evolution of the chicken coop, and they're all excited to see the kids growing the things and keeping the deer out and figuring out how to make things work even with the deer population that come in, and they're excited to see how it is. So, no surprise in my mind that a bunch of our neighbors have already said, well, when you're ready, we'll buy eggs from you. And when you're ready, we'll take some of your produce off your hands. So our goal is really to sustain our family first and then offer and for free for a lot of our neighbors. But for people that want specific things, that definitely we are willing to have people pay us if they're not able and capable of trading for other things. But we do have friends that, like I was saying about the ghost peppers and the jalapenos, are things that my husband likes that I don't grow. So.
Right. Oh, that's so wonderful. Well, if you're just tuning in, we are the Alchemy Sisters, Mandee and Jennie, and we are here with Sam Groff chatting about parenting as Poopy and her business, OmniBiz Services, which we're going to get into next. You can find us on Facebook, The Alchemy Sisters. You can check us out on our website, www.alchemyascensionacademy.com. You can follow us on Heart Over Ego. That is the name of our radio network. So we have Heart Over Ego Radio on Facebook and Instagram as well. And if you're just tuning in, we thank you for being here. If it's okay with you, Sam, I would love to talk a little bit more about your OmniBiz Services and what that entails.
Okay. So OmniBiz Services was born out of necessity because back in 2016 I got laid off and from my instructional design job in the corporate world, and I realized that I needed to be able to work from home. And OmniBiz Services is not my first full business. Sam Social Solutions is actually my first business, and it evolved into OmniBiz Services because I realized I could not do my job well by myself. And that's, it kind of comes back even to the same concept of parenting as Poopy. It is really just that it takes a community to really thrive and be successful, kind of like how you, Mandee and Jennie, are working together to be the Alchemy Sisters and to support and help other people. So OmniBiz Services is a company that helps startups to scale up with any of their support services needs. So anything from VA services, social media, bookkeeping, and what I do specifically is course creation. So that's more of the scale up portion of the business, where I help people who want to create online courses to be able to support the highest and greatest good of the community that they're looking to help. So that is what we do in a nutshell.
That's beautiful. Sam gave me a rundown last year for the Alchemy Sisters in like just a matter of a couple hours at her house of all these amazing things we could change and implement. And I definitely started with some of them, and there's some I still have to do, which I'm still holding myself accountable to, Sam. But it was just like such a wealth of knowledge, and it was like, you know, spending just a little bit of time with Sam, she can look at what you have going on with your business and come up with a million different ideas and suggestions that'll help you grow. So if anyone's ever thinking about working with Sam, I highly encourage you to.
Well, thank you.
Sam, would you be comfortable sharing your business information so that our listeners could get a hold of you? And we'll probably ask you again at the end just so that they can get familiar as we discuss it.
Sure. It's omnibizservices.com, which is O as in octopus, M as in Mandee, N as in nuts, I as in ice cube, biz, which is B as in boy, I as in igloo, Z as in zebra, services, S as in Sam, E as in elephant, R as in rat, I as in igloo, C as in cat, E as in elephant, S as in snake.com. So, or 443-502-6685. Teacher and me will never die.
I love it. That was good. Jennie, you were going to say something. Oh, do we have Jennie with us?
I hope so. I don't know where she went.
She'll probably be back. Sometimes her Skype goes in and out, and that's okay. We have a lot going on technologically, and we just kind of finished up some solar storms, and Pluto just went retrograde, so that always affects our technology. But I'm sure she'll be back very shortly.
That's how I feel about Mercury retrograde. I'm like, shit, I have technological problems 24/7. When Mercury comes in, it's just like a little extra added on top. I often do have to live out in the country where it's beautiful and I love it, but the internet is shoddy. But I'm back. Thanks, ladies.
You are back. Did you have a question for Sam? You were kind of starting to talk and then I lost you.
Oh, I'm not sure. I may not have been starting to talk. I may have. I don't really have a question, but I'll think of one real quick here. Sam, would you say that for a small business when starting out, that being on Instagram and Facebook is beneficial, or do you feel like one is more beneficial than the other, in your opinion?
Well, it depends on your niche. Currently, Instagram is actually kind of taking over because Facebook and Instagram merged. So once you're on one platform, you can be simultaneously on both. So if you are focusing specifically on, and I'm just going to pick what you guys do, like holistic healing and helping people and connecting things in the divine universe, really utilizing Instagram to attract a following and attract an audience to really understand what you're doing through a story is really right now what's king, and that can transcend to Facebook with seamless transition. So that is the beauty of it right now, that those two have merged. But if you look at it from a completely corporate level, then you have to worry and go, oh crap, they have merged. What is going to evolve next? So, but as a small business, if you are really looking to connect with people with energy and divine healing and the things that you two are really doing, putting yourselves out there, showcasing the awesomeness of what it is that you do through story, it is Instagram, because a picture can say 1,000 words versus the actual 1,000 words that people might only read the first 25.
Yep, we are in an ADD world.
That's true. Very instant gratification with the Instagram, which makes sense. Jennie and I are excited. For our listeners, we're upping our game, and we're both getting like some professional photos taken next month, and we've been updating all of our stuff, and we are just learning Instagram ourselves, but it's something that we feel is rising because it seems that's what everybody is on, and you kind of just confirm that, Sam.
Yeah, it is definitely. I was just going to say, it is just definitely where the algorithm is going. So go for it.
Good to know. What are some of your tips for people who are just starting out? Do you recommend that it's important for people to have a Facebook and an Instagram these days, or other social media? Like, how important is social media in your business in today's day and age?
Well, I think it really is about what you do that's first and foremost. And if you're my computer is deciding to make a ton of noises. If you are an online company, you have to be on social media. If you are focusing on in-person services, though, what people often forget is they think that going online, doing the website, doing the social media will be an immediate return on investment. The sad part is that that's not a reality anymore. 10 years ago, it may have been because there weren't so many people on social media, but now the social media market is saturated. So what I recommend is a trifecta approach. So if you are looking to target your local market and the online space, really having a pivotal website for people to go to and learn more about you is key. That has strong SEO, that's going to be able to find you locally and nationally, and then having a social media marketing plan. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to be throwing a ton of money at the Facebook and the Instagrams and all those places, but a plan of action. Like, what do you want to share with the world? Why do you want to share it? When do you want to share it? How do you want to share it? To entice your viewers and your followers to understand really who you are at the core of what you do. I'm very much pro-organic growth versus the let's throw a ton of money at things and see what works. I'd rather grow organically and do that kind of approach. But the last key of the puzzle that most people forget is actually that old school print advertising. If you are going to do networking events, if you are going to do local events, it is key to make sure that you are actually promoting yourself locally. And if that means you're putting money into a mailer, that's great. If that means you're putting money into a small town local radio service, that's great. It's not cheap, but it's a reality that you could utilize that will actually get you pretty good distance, a pretty good bang for your buck. So you got to figure out what your specific focus point. So for you guys, you're one, Jennie, you're in Colorado, and Mandee, you're in Florida, right?
I'm in California.
Can't keep up
you're
with
in California
Jennie,
now.
Yeah. Jennie,
oh, hey.
Jennie's in California now, and I'm still in Florida.
Oh, Lord. I'm all over the place. So, if you choose to do something locally, like, say, at a YMCA, canvassing, putting up flyers, handing things out, going to your local print shop, a small-scale print shop, not a big Vistaprint, and going and asking them, hey, do you do specified mailers? You'd be surprised that those local print shops will be able to really target and hone in to the specific type of audience, just like Facebook ads can do for you. So really hitting those kind of local aspects to make sure that you're really targeting where every aspect of your business is crucial. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah. That's a great answer. I was reflecting on that because I like to project my ideas into manifestations, which often look like daydreams. So I was thinking about retreats in the future. And I was thinking, I want to make them affordable. I want to make them available. What do I do? Okay, A, do local people first, people who don't have to buy a flight to get to you. That's going to drop off $500-$600 off their expenditure. And I plan on doing short ones anyway, not whole week ones where someone would benefit from, spending $500 on a flight to stay somewhere for a while. It'd be more weekend, short-term exposure. So I was like, I end up, it's funny, I'm all over the place. Gypsy roots here, or lack thereof, I should say. I end up all over the place, but my end result here is going to be Santa Fe, New Mexico. And then I was like, that's a great place because you got California, of course, but then you got Arizona, New Mexico, and Colorado that I could pull potential people in where it's just a short half day or less drive to me, give them a heck of a deal, feed them vegan organic food, and teach and bring in teachers. So I was like, that's how I can get that price way down for the consumer because I want to make it available to everyone. Yeah.
And a way to do that is then when you're looking at your marketing and your marketing budget, you focus on canvassing. So if you choose Facebook or Instagram, focusing on that geographical location and then narrowing it down. Who is your target audience? And that's what a lot of people forget when they're doing online. They see boost. Well, Facebook wants you to boost the post because Facebook's just raking in the money at that point. So is Instagram. What they need to do, and you guys too, is that you need to go into your ads manager account and make sure you're utilizing that because you can get even more finite about who is that target that you're looking to get to. And the irony to that is that once you do that on your social media channels, you can even do so, again, like I said, at a local print shop and be able to say, hey, I want to create a mailer, and I'm going to use you. Do you do specific mailers? What can you give me as a reduced price if I'm going to do the mailer and the printing through you and the shipping? And you'd be surprised. Local print shops will literally work with you to manage that because, Vistaprint is killing a lot of the small local printers. But those local printers are the ones that are actually proofing, what you're giving them. Do you have a spelling error? Do you have the right time? Did you really mean 4 o'clock in the morning or did you mean 4 o'clock at night? So tapping into that local, very organic, natural market and your end result will give you the best bang for your buck. It may seem like a little bit more upfront, but the end result's going to be 100 times better.
Awesome. I love that information. And Mandee, remember we were talking about people going local and getting on local radio stations and maybe getting interviewed, something like a podcast, but a local radio station. I think we should play into that too. And I think that goes along with what Sam's saying is utilize your local resources. They're trying to compete with the internet, so they might have dropped their prices or have sales or something.
That not even just that, but that they're more willing to work with you and do that personal touch, like Mandee said.
Yeah, it sounds really nice. And it's just something like, I don't know, for me and Jennie, we're always complaining about technology because it's like not our number one thing. And for us, it'd be much easier to go to a print shop and be like, hey, this is what our idea, these are some of our images, this is what we're looking to do, what can you create for us? Whereas on Vistaprint, you have to design that yourself. And then like you said, Sam, you don't have somebody double checking it and looking it over, and your tired eyes are probably, looking over a silly misspelled word and not realizing it. And those things are incredibly crucial and time and money saving. Yeah.
Very true.
Oh, very cool. What are some, I loved that because, the way Jennie and I have grown together, Jennie was very like word of mouth service, and both of us very, like, I would say most of our readings come via referral or like word of mouth from clients that we've worked with. So now we've been trying to take it online a little bit more, have a little bit more exposure, and the growth has been perfect for both of us because there's been times where we could easily get overwhelmed, and we're glad that we have a little bit more time to ourselves right now. But, we are growing and things are changing and it's a little different. So I'm really excited for some of these things that you listed off and to kind of go and check that out. What would you say if someone is just starting up their own, like, because we have a lot of healers, so we'll go with that. We have a lot of healers who are listening and stuff, and say we have, Susie Q, who's just starting up her new psychic service or healer service. What are some of the first things that a new independent person or entrepreneur should kind of focus on for marketing?
Well, from a marketing perspective, one of the first things that they need to do is they need to know who they are. And I don't mean that in a flippant way, because they probably know way better who they are than I do sometimes. But who they are to the rest of the universe. What do they look like? What is their brand? And that's not just the logo that they put out. It is who they are at the core. And Mandee, you know me very well in the sense that I'm a no BS approach kind of to everything. Like if you come at me sleeves off, I'm coming at you full tilt, and I will not hold back because that's who I am. And I want you to take away the most important value, and whatever that is that you hear is that most important thing. So one of the ways that they need to do that is they need to figure out who that is. Are you a more an energetic healer that's going to be able to cut through the BS and just give it to you straight, or is it a different approach? I can only come at it from my angle, and I'm not an energy healer in any way in that sense. But for me, you have to figure out who your brand is. What are you, and what are you portraying to the world? That's the first and foremost thing before you even start doing anything like social media and websites. The second thing, once you've done that, is to really determine, is this the name that you're going to use, and is this going to name that you're going to use forever? Because that's what you then need to then take it to the level of branding in the online world. And that will then give you your website domain. Hopefully it'll give you all of your social media channels. And what you need to do, one of the things that everybody forgets, is that you actually have to go out there and get every single platform with your name, because otherwise somebody can come in and completely fake who you are and trash talk you. And that's one of the things that I was most surprised about when I'm trying, even myself, who works in social media on a regular basis, I cannot get Instagram to cooperate with me at all. And it's because somebody else tried to lock in OmniBiz Services and screwed up the whole universe, the Instagram universe for me. So I need to go through the channels of figuring it out and, getting my name back and making sure that we can clearly put it out there in a strong, coherent brand, but taking over every channel, even the channels that you don't think you're going to use. So say you're a healer, but you don't think you'll ever use Twitter. Well, it doesn't matter if you're never going to use Twitter. If somebody else pulls your name and starts speaking as you and comes across as a complete butthead, then you know what? You're going to come across on social media as a butthead, and no one wants that. So, and then from there, once you've pulled all of your names and collected all those things, the next thing I would do is figure out the Google My Business and go literally online. It's a free service, Google My Business, and you type that in to Google and it'll populate, and you will literally fill out the forms. You'll get the card in the mail for free, and you will validate your actual business where it is on the internet, and you'll give yourself a true digital footprint. And then you will be in control of your business on Google. And you can link your website and all of your social media channels to it, and it'll be a cohesive hub for yourself to get your name out there. And then once you do that, you can pick the channel that you're going to want to focus on. I wouldn't try every channel ever. That's going to give you a massive migraine. But You pick the channel that most resonates with you and resonates with your ideal prospect or your ideal client, and that's where then you market. And you tell your story, be authentic. Don't shove a lot of BS sales crap down people's throat. No one wants to hear that. But if you're truly telling them, like what I do in mine, a lot of people who've watched my videos out there in Facebook and stuff are like, you do what's called a soft sell, and that is what I do. And I don't do it intentionally, but it's who I am. I'm not going to come at you hard, salesy kind of approach. I just tell you who I am. If you like it, keep staying along. If you don't like it, piss off. Go find somebody else. I'm happy to know you. I'm happy to have you follow me. But if I don't resonate with you, I don't want you in my community. And so many people get scared to honor that about marketing because they think advertising, next sale, quickest return on investment. Well, none of that really matters if at the end of the day you're unhappy with what you're putting out there and you're not being authentically you. So that's where I really say stand in who you are and your light and whatever it is that resonates with you, and take a no BS approach to it of it may be slow, but honor that it's slow because that will actually be finding you your right tribe or group of people that are really supposed to be with you. So hopefully that makes sense and resonates with everybody.
Oh, yeah. That was brilliant. Absolutely. That's incredible. And I didn't even know that you could Google my business to validate it and all of those steps. So Jennie and I will definitely be discussing that at our next business meeting. Are you with us,
Well,
Jennie?
yeah.
Oh, there she is.
Yeah, I was thinking, ooh, that's going down in the notes because we don't want anyone on Twitter claiming to be us and being ridiculous and destroying our internet stance. So that's something to know and do. I was not aware of that, so good to know. Yeah, that's great. And we noticed that there's another woman. She is using the tagline or title Heart Over Ego, and she reached out to us a while back and was saying, what do you intend on doing with yours? This is what I'm doing. And we're like, surely we don't need to only have one. How detrimental is that? If we're pushing Heart Over Ego on our shows and pushing people into that corral, and there's two of them, we have more followers. But is that something we should switch around to Heart Over Ego Radio, or what do you think is the best approach?
She's in France. And it's like a non-for-profit thing, and has a different kind of energy than ours. I think hers is more government related. But either way, it's the same name.
So actually, I was just working with a local photographer that is having the same exact problem. And it's a Canadian company and a local company in Maryland. And they both have the exact same name, and they're both photographers. So it's very confusing. One of the things that I recommend is literally just saying, the location. And the woman in Canada didn't want to cooperate with the person in Maryland. So as her business has faded out, the local Maryland photographer is actually looking to snatch up the URL and domain name because at the end of the day, the other lady didn't want to play nice. So an easy way of doing it is when you're already been in communication, which is fabulous. I'm so happy to hear that. You're able to literally just say, do you want to just say you're in France and we're in the United States and call it a day? And that can make the simple switch as long as you're delineating the location. You'd be surprised at how much the internet will be happy with you of delineating location. But if you are going to say Heart Over Ego Radio, that also equally works. But I still would focus when you're doing it, pulling it into where in the world you are, not in the global view, not necessarily pinpointing it to like California or Florida, but United States.
Sure.
Would definitely give you a far more distinct reach, and it would clarify for a lot of people what's going on. So that's the SEO portion of it, but I don't really want to get into search engine optimization. That can give anybody a mind screw, and no one wants that on a Monday night.
Exactly. I think that's incredibly powerful. And yes, SEO would be a whole nother show in itself. There's so much that goes into that. Thank
Definitely.
you so much, Sam, for taking the time to talk with us and with our listeners and just share your amazing gifts and talents. We so appreciate you and all the amazing things that you're doing in the world. And we'll definitely be in touch with you because I'm sure we're going to have a lot of follow-up questions after this.
Well, thank you, Mandee and Jennie, for having me on. And, again, if anybody ever wants to just set up a call with me, I have no problem with that. Doesn't matter where in the country you are, or even if you're in the United States. Again, I'm at OmniBizServices.com, and what we do is we help support the startup to the scale up with all business support services, from marketing, bookkeeping, and course creation. So if that helps anybody, I'm glad to talk to them. If they want to call me, I'm at 443-502-6685. And otherwise, please feel free to follow our blogs. And also, my Parenting is Poopy is just for fun for me right now. It isn't anything that I'm looking to turn into a monetary situation in any way. So if you want to just follow that and follow the ride of the craziness of my micro farming, feel free.
Thank you so much, Sam. Thank you, Mandee, for holding the space until I could get on the show with the technical difficulties. Sam, you're a wealth of knowledge. We'd love to have a part 2 and a part 3 and dive more into your. Mandee and I are healers at heart and more grassroots business than this technological space, but we're hanging strong and we're hanging in there, and we'll just bring in our community and offer up jobs for you guys to help us out. So that's how it is. We shake hands. It's that trade and or supporting your local friends and businesses. It's wonderful to have you. Everyone, thanks for coming. Mandee and I are here every Monday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have a YouTube page. It's called Heart Over Ego. You can also find us on Facebook at the Alchemy Sisters, or Mandee Elam, or Jennie McDaniel. You can also find our podcast on a few platforms: iHeart Radio, Stitcher, TuneIn, iTunes, Spotify, and Google Play Music. We appreciate everyone for showing it up, and we will see you next week. Until then, have a lovely week.
Good night.
Bye-bye. Good night. Bye.
What if you could change your life? What if the sorrow could become joy and the darkness the light? What if you could heal not only yourself but those around you? Well, you can. This is Alchemy, and these are the Alchemy Sisters. Join psychic Jennie McDaniel and spiritual advisor Mandee Elam for a magical 1-hour journey into esoteric spiritual discussions.